The ghost in the warehouse. I'll preface this by saying I've never been a big believer in the paranormal, but this experience definitely challenged my skepticism. Between 2016 and 2018, I was a supervisor in a warehouse. Over that period of time, but more towards the end of my time there, 3 separate things happened that I found spooky. The reason being, all 3 were corroborated by other staff members or contractors with no knowledge of the events happening to me too. It's also important to know my company had 2 units, one at either end of the building, and there was another company who owned the larger middle unit. The first thing that happened was seemingly insignificant but turned out to be pretty creepy. Whilst walking down the aisles picking orders, I'd sometimes hear whistling, the sort of whistle you'd make when you were hiding from someone and you wanted to taunt them. The first couple of times it happened, I'd look for the source, a smile on my face thinking it was one of my colleagues playing with me. There weren't many places one could hide, mind you. There were 5 aisles that ran the full length of the warehouse, and they were narrow. Only one aisle dissected the 5 long aisles down the middle, and you could see between shelves and through most of the racking. Even so, I could never find the source, and after that I just shrugged it off, as I couldn't be bothered playing along. Weeks later, one of my colleagues who worked in the other unit told me he used to get freaked out down there because he'd always hear whistling when he was on his own. There were only 2 people working in that unit the vast majority of the time, and he said he heard the whistle coming from inside the warehouse when the other guy was outside having a cigarette, so it can't have been him. He even mimicked the whistle, and it was the exact same one I used to hear. The second thing that was probably more eerie was, I once heard my name being called by a bodiless voice. I was working in the packing area. I was the only person in there, and I heard, faintly at first, my name. I thought maybe it was the radio and it just sounded like someone calling my name. Then I heard it again, this time more clearly. So I walked to the end of the packing area where it opened up to the warehouse. Not a soul. I even went to the little canteen area where one colleague was sat and asked if he was shouting me, which he denied, and it wouldn't have sounded so loud if he was doing it from the other side of a wall. Then I heard it a 3rd time, this time clear as a bell. I went out into the warehouse shouting, "Hello? Hello? Is someone shouting me?" There was no one there at all. I checked down every aisle. I even walked through to the office to see if one of the office staff had come in looking for me, but they all denied it and said no one had left the office in that time. The thing that was weirdest about the whole thing was a few days later, a different colleague who wasn't even there that day told me that he'd heard someone shouting my name whilst he was alone. Not his name, still my name. The final and most scary thing that happened to me was when I saw a man out of my peripheral vision walking down the aisle next to me, parallel to me. As soon as I'd registered someone there, I looked across through the gaps in the racking, but there was no one there. We see things out of the corner of our eyes all the time, but the thing is, I'd seen him in detail. He was about 60 years old, with ashen hair, glasses, and was wearing white overalls. The uniform at our warehouse was a black polo shirt. I have a pretty good imagination, but I don't think I could have conjured up that vivid an image in a split second. A few days later, I was down at our 2nd unit, and there were a couple of subcontractors there putting up some more racking for us. I got talking to one of them, and he said to me that they were nearly done, and he was going to come in on Saturday morning to finish, but only he could make it, and didn't come in on his own without his colleague. I said, "Is that a health and safety thing that you can't be here on your own?" He replied, "No, it's just whenever I'm here on my own, I see a bloke in white overalls walking about, and it freaks me out." I felt a tingle run down my spine and legs, and he must have saw the look in my eyes, because as soon as he noticed my expression change, he asked me, "You've seen him, haven't you?" I still don't know what to make of it, but it creeped me out to no end.